For the best price, click the link in the description. Today, I'm reviewing the Samsung Odyssey G50D, a gaming monitor that promises to deliver an immersive experience with its 240 Hz refresh rate and 1 ms response time. But here's what surprised me when I started using it. Despite its impressive specs, this monitor has some significant flaws. Firstly, let's talk about the design. The Samsung Odyssey G50D has a sleek and minimalist look that fits seamlessly into any gaming setup. However, upon closer inspection, you'll notice that the build quality is somewhat lacking. The plastic used for the bezels feels flimsy, and the monitor's base can be a bit wobbly. Therefore, I was skeptical about this monitor's ability to deliver a seamless gaming experience. But what about its performance? In my tests, the Samsung Odyssey G50D delivered impressive frame rates in popular games like Fortnite and Overwatch. However, it struggled with more demanding titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, you might be wondering why I'm being so harsh on this monitor. After all, it's a high-end gaming display with some incredible features. But here's the thing, for its price, I expected a lot more. The Samsung Odyssey G50D is currently priced at around $800, which is significantly higher than other monitors in its class. But what about the good stuff? One of the standout features of this monitor is its QHD resolution and 240 Hz refresh rate. In theory, this should provide an incredibly smooth gaming experience. And when it works, it's nothing short of breathtaking. However, I found that the monitor often struggled to maintain this high refresh rate in more demanding games. There are also some other issues with the Samsung Odyssey G50D that you might want to consider. For example, the monitor has a relatively small 27-inch screen size, which can make it difficult to immerse yourself in your game if you're playing on a larger scale. So, is the Samsung Odyssey G50D worth the investment? In my opinion, it's a mixed bag. While it delivers some impressive performance in certain games, its flaws and limitations hold it back from being a truly top-notch gaming monitor. However, if you're looking for a high-end display with some incredible features, you might want to consider giving it a shot. But don't just take my word for it. Here are the specs of the Samsung Odyssey G50D. 27-inch QHD resolution, 240 Hz refresh rate, 1 ms response time, and support for NVIDIA G-Sync technology. Therefore, if you're looking for a monitor that can deliver an incredibly smooth gaming experience, this might be worth considering. However, as I mentioned earlier, the Samsung Odyssey G50D has some significant flaws that need to be taken into account. For example, its build quality is somewhat lacking, and it often struggled to maintain its high refresh rate in more demanding games. Therefore, if you're looking for a monitor that can deliver a seamless gaming experience across the board, this might not be the best choice. But what about the competition? There are several other monitors on the market that offer similar features at a lower price point. For example, the Acer Predator XB273K has a similar 240 Hz refresh rate and QHD resolution, but it's priced significantly lower at around $600. Therefore, if you're in the market for a high-end gaming monitor, I would recommend taking a closer look at some of the competition before committing to the Samsung Odyssey G50D. However, if you do decide to go with this monitor, make sure to check out our link in the description below for the best price. But don't just take my word for it. Here are some real-life reviews from customers who have purchased the Samsung Odyssey G50D. "I was blown away by the smooth gaming experience on this monitor," said one reviewer. However, another customer noted that the monitor's build quality is somewhat lacking. Therefore, it's essential to weigh both sides of the argument before making a decision. Now, let's talk about the features of the Samsung Odyssey G50D in more detail. As I mentioned earlier, this monitor has a 27-inch QHD resolution and a 240 Hz refresh rate, which should provide an incredibly smooth gaming experience. Therefore, if you're looking for a monitor that can deliver high frame rates in your favorite games, this might be worth considering. However, one of the biggest drawbacks of this monitor is its limited adjustability. The stand is fixed and there are no VESA mounting options available. Therefore, if you're planning to use this monitor in a setup with multiple monitors or a desk with a complex design, you might find that it's not as versatile as other options on the market. But what about the gaming performance? As I mentioned earlier, the Samsung Odyssey G50D delivered impressive frame rates in popular games like Fortnite and Overwatch. However, it struggled with more demanding titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Therefore, if you're planning to use this monitor for playing more demanding games, you might want to consider a different option. There are also some other features of the Samsung Odyssey G50D that you might find useful. For example, the monitor has built-in speakers and support for HDR10 technology. However, I found that the speakers were somewhat lacking in terms of quality, and the HDR10 mode didn't seem to make much of a difference. Therefore, if you're looking for a high-end gaming display with some incredible features, you might want to consider giving the Samsung Odyssey G50D a shot. But don't just take my word for it, here are some pros and cons to help you decide. Pros: impressive performance in certain games. QHD resolution and 240 Hz refresh rate. Support for NVIDIA G-Sync technology. Cons: limited adjustability. Build quality is somewhat lacking. Often struggled to maintain high refresh rates in demanding games. But what about the price? As I mentioned earlier, the Samsung Odyssey G50D is currently priced at around $800, which is significantly higher than other monitors in its class. Therefore, if you're on a budget, you might want to consider looking elsewhere. However, if you do decide to go with this monitor, make sure to check out our link in the description below for the best price. And don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. Therefore, after considering all of these factors, my verdict is that the Samsung Odyssey G50D is a mixed bag. While it delivers some impressive performance in certain games, its flaws and limitations hold it back from being a truly top-notch gaming monitor. However, if you're looking for a high-end display with some incredible features, you might want to give it a shot. But don't just take my word for it, here are the final thoughts. In conclusion, the Samsung Odyssey G50D is a solid choice for those who want a high-end gaming monitor with impressive specs. However, its flaws and limitations need to be taken into account before making a decision. Therefore, if you're looking for a seamless gaming experience across the board, I would recommend considering some of the competition. But what do you think? Have any thoughts or opinions about this monitor? Let me know in the comments section below.